In this lecture, we want to explore how we could store different kinds of objects in objects of our box container class. But so far, we have no way to do this in a much more flexible way. What we can do is set up different classes that reuse the same code. So for example, we can set up a class that is going to be containing integers, and we have a flexible setup we can use to do this. All we have to do is change this type alias to be an integer, and this is going to be a box container class that could store integers. And this could work. We don't really need to change anything in our code. This is going to reuse everything we have done. All we have to do is name our class differently and make it store collections of integers, and this is going to work just fine. We can use this same idea and set up a class to store double types. So we are going to change our type alias to store double data, and we don't need to change any other thing. This is the only thing we need to change, along with the name of the class. We can do the same thing for characters. So we have here a character container which is going to be storing character types, and the same code is going to be reused. The only problem with this approach is really that we have to do a lot of copies, and all these classes are going to be basically containing the same code, and this is not good. This is bad design, but don't worry, we will see a way around this using templates starting in the next chapter. But for now, I want you to see that this is a possibility, and it is going to be a good foundation to move in the next chapter and learn about class templates. So let's head over to Visual Studio Code and see how we can do this in practice. Here we are in our working folder. The current project is storing in different types, and we will use our template project now. So let's copy this and put this in place. And I will steal my files from my drive to really use these as a starting point. So I have the classes already set up. We have int container, double container, and car container, exactly the same classes we saw in the slides. Along with this, we have our stream insertable interface that we can use to print these things out. So it is going to be reused by these containers. Now that we have this in place, we can open this up in Visual Studio Code, and this is going to make things a little bit faster. So let's look at our car container. It is exactly what we had in box container, but this is going to be using car as our type. So our value type is going to be a type alias for a character, and this collection is going to have the ability to store characters. Notice that we don't need to change a thing in all the code that we have worked hard to have so far in this chapter here. The implementation is not going to change, and everything is going to work. We have our copy constructor, we have our destructor, we don't need to change a thing. We have our stream insert override, it is not going to change. We have our expand method. Basically, everything is going to be reused. The only problem is that we have to copy all the code and name the class differently to reflect the type that this collection is really storing. It is all going to be storing the data internally as dynamic arrays, so this is also not going to change, and this is going to work. We can do the same and set up a double container which is going to be storing double types. Again, all we need to do is change the type alias to be double, and this is going to be all we need, along with changing the name for the class to be double container, and we will be able to use this. We also have an int container class which is going to be storing integers, and again the code is going to be the same. Hopefully you can see the problem with this approach, and the problem is that we will have to basically copy the same code to make it work with different types, and this is not flexible. If you happen to have this collection work with 100 different types, you would basically have 100 classes with the same code inside, and we obviously need better ways to do things. But in this lecture, we want to see that this is a possibility, and starting in the next chapter, we are going to use class templates to solve this kind of problem. And what class templates are really going to do, they are going to take over the job of copying this code if you happen to be storing different types in your container box class, and we're going to see how we can achieve that. So now that we have these classes in place, we can include them in our main CPP file. So let's include int container. We can include double container. Let's do that. And we can include car container. And we're going to remove everything we have in the main function because this is just gibberish for now. So let's remove this. And we will set up a bunch of containers. So let's put the code to do that in. We have a double container, which is going to be containing doubles, and we'll print this out. We have an int container, which is going to be containing ints, and we're going to print this out. And we have a char container, which is going to be containing characters, and we're going to print this out as well. Notice that you can use all the methods. For example, if we want, we can remove the else in our char container here. So let's remove them and print this out. So we're going to say char box1 and remove all, and we are going to remove L, the L character, and we're going to see what this gives us. We can really play with this and make sure these things are working as we expect. Now that we have this in place, we can build our code to make sure it is working. Let's pass this through GCC. The build is going to be good as we see down here. Let's bring up a PowerShell window we can use to play with us. We're going to run the program and we're going to see our double box printed out. This is the data we put in. Let's go up and find this again. 11.2, 33.5. This is the data. Our int box is going to contain 10 and 20. We have this here. We have our char box, which is going to contain the message hello. And if we remove all instances of the L character, we're going to be left with here, and this is what we see. This is working just fine. This is all I had to share in this lecture. I hope you found it interesting. We are going to stop here in this one. In the next one, we're going to try and recap what we saw in this chapter. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.